Australia, January 1949. The Federal Minister for Immigration boarded a ship, the Fairsea, with the first transport of Polish displaced persons coming from Europe. A 10-year-old girl dressed in national costume welcomed him.
I have the honour of greeting you in the name of a group of Poles arriving in Australia. Our way to freedom was long and very hard. It led us from being oppressed by the invaders of Poland, through concentration camps, captivity, slave labour and long waiting in the DP camps. But we are happy to see a free country and its free citizens as we were 10 years ago. We are thankful to you, sir, and to the Australian government for putting the end to our homeless life. On our side, we are promising to do our best when living in Australia and working for Australia, a country of freedom.
Our land of wealth in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. With joyful strings then let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beautiful sky, yes,
Dobry, Evetchor. I know that's probably the worst pronunciation you've ever had. Good evening, but good evening. Look, it is a pleasure to be here today, pleasure to be here tonight to celebrate the Republic of Poland's National Independence Day. Poland has played an important part in many world events, not least of which occurred in 1989, of course, the year that Poland became the first Eastern European country to overthrow communist rule. But nations, of course, are more than just about governments. They're about people and communities. And the Polish community has produced some outstanding individuals on the international stage. But we also have some outstanding individuals here in Victoria. And of course, whether it's in sport or science or business or the arts, Australia's Polish community has made a lasting and far-reaching contribution to our society. The recent Polish festival held at the Immigration Museum is a prime example of what the Polish community means to Victoria. And more than 3,000 people visited the festival for Polish music, foods, traditional crafts and stories of migration. It was a great success.
Poland, situated in the middle of Europe, has had a long and turbulent history. It emerged from the mists of prehistory in 966, when Prince Mieszko I accepted Catholic baptism, married a Czech princess, and introduced clerical scribes into his court. His son, Bolesław the Brave, a warrior, was the first of several crowned Polish kings. The crown, granted by the Pope from Rome, was the symbol of Poland's formal recognition as a member of Western Christendom. In the 14th century, Kazimierz the Great was the first king of Poland to lay a permanent legal and institutional foundation for the monarchy. His grandniece, Jadwiga, daughter of a Hungarian king, was crowned as the Queen of Poland in Krakow in 1384. She then married the Grand Duke of Lithuania, Jagiello, and founded the Jagiellonian dynasty, which ruled both Poland and Lithuania for almost 2 centuries. This arrangement was transformed into a permanent constitutional union in the 16th century, when the assembled Polish and Lithuanian nobles established a dual state, with separate laws and administration, although jointly governed by an elected king and a common parliament. For over 2 centuries, this Commonwealth prospered as the largest multicultural state in Europe, with a profusion of peoples, a variety of religions, and many languages. The 18th century saw the growth of absolute power in neighbouring countries and a crisis of social, economic and political life in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. The Polish Democratic Constitution was passed in Warsaw on the 3rd of May 1791, the first such constitution in Europe and the second in the world. Although it was designed to save Poland, it could never be fully introduced. The 3 consecutive partitions of Poland in the last quarter of the 18th century were caused by the compulsive desire of Russia to crush the Polish reforms. Prussia and Austria acquiesced. At the time of the Enlightenment, Poland was oppressed by despotism and disappeared from the map of Europe for over 120 years. Despite the complete abolishment of independence and harsh persecutions after 3 unsuccessful uprisings, the inhabitants of the former Commonwealth survived its fall, and with them their culture, languages, religions, social and political attitudes. They formed the living bridge between Poland's past and the Second Republic of Poland, which emerged anew after the First World War in 1918. "20 years later, the Second Republic of Poland was invaded by Hitler's Germany and Stalin's Russia. Poles fought for freedom on both Western and Eastern fronts during the Second World War, and also in the occupied homeland. During the war, 15% of the Polish population was lost, and 1/3 of Polish territory annexed. By the end of the war, the Polish government in exile had raised a regular army beyond Polish borders of nearly 600,000. Including the soldiers of the underground army in occupied Poland, the Polish nation raised an army of over 1 million and was the 4th largest contributor to the victory of the anti-Nazi coalition. Betrayed by the United States and England in the Yalta Agreement, Poland was subsequently controlled by the Soviet Union for the next 45 years. In 1989, thanks to the Solidarity movement, Poland regained her independence and instituted the Third Republic. Almost 40 million citizens live within its present borders. During the last 2 centuries, millions of Poles have escaped the persecution of their homeland in search of freedom and human dignity. Currently, over 12 million people of Polish heritage live outside Poland. Each year, on May the 3rd, the Polish community in Victoria gathers to celebrate Polish Democratic Constitution Day.
Just 3 years after the first fleet arrived in Botany Bay, the Polish people embarked on a most ambitious venture. The venture took place somewhere at the twilight of the Enlightenment and the dawn of a hitherto unknown turmoil fuelled by romantic nationalism and revolutionary zeal. The experiment was the first continental European democratic constitution. Today, Poland enjoys a working democratic constitution and an increasingly prosperous economy. A few years ago, Poland joined NATO, and just a few days ago, Poland joined the European Union. The Polish question is at last no longer morally urgent, and this is as it should be. Let me return to the 1791 Constitution, which read in part, "We owe to all persons of whatever persuasion peace in their faith and the protection of the government, and therefore we guarantee freedom to all rights and religions." This expression, ladies and gentlemen, remains as relevant today as when it was written 213 years ago.
Sir Paul Edmund de Strzelecki, named the highest mountain of the Australian continent after the internationally applauded Polish freedom fighter and hero, General Tadeusz Kościuszko. A number of other regions, rivers and significant landmarks bear the explorer Strzelecki's own name in Victoria, as well as in Tasmania and New South Wales. He located deposits of gold, coal, iron and many other valued minerals. Strzelecki was first in topography, mineralogy, geology, agricultural and analytical chemistry, and in cartography. He brought his gifts to the new frontier of Australia and worked over 4 tireless years. It is astounding to chart the extent of Strzelecki's travels, mostly on foot, throughout the Australian mainland and Tasmania. He walked mostly on the first primitive tracks of the colonies, though some, like his ascent of Mount Kościuszko and through Gippsland, broke new ground. Strzelecki pleaded for the preservation of the Aboriginal race and culture, but his passionate defence of what he saw as the noble savage was isolated and ignored. Poles have been contributing to the development of Victoria since the earliest pioneering days. For example, Władysław Kosak, Inspector of Victorian Mounted Police; Emeryk Boberski, Mayor of Ararat and local businessman; Gracius Brajnowski, author of Birds of Australia, ornithologist and painter; Stanisław Detaczynski, musician and concertmaster for the ABC and J.C. Williamson Opera Company; Major Seweryn Kozieliński, author of Memoirs of Gold Digging in Australia; Bronisław Malinowski, famous anthropologist; Most Reverend Leon Sharma, the first bishop consecrated on Australian territory. These are only a few of the Polish 19th century settlers recognised as renowned Victorians. Only a few Poles resided in Victoria prior to the end of World War II. The first to arrive after the war were Polish ex-servicemen who served in the Polish forces under British command, led by the Polish Rats of Tobruk, and airmen who fought alongside Australian comrades.
Also aboard the Asturias is a party of 270 Polish migrants who served in Tobruk with Australian soldiers and were specially selected on this account. Many have high Polish decorations in addition to Allied service ribbons. All are single and all are under 45. The long and the short of it is that these men envisage excellent opportunities in Australia and are marching into the future with hope and determination. On our part, we need their numbers, and in welcoming them, trust that their courage in leaving their own country will be well rewarded.
Each year, the Polish ex-servicemen march with pride in Anzac parades all over Australia. Since the early 1960s, Polish ex-servicemen have taken part in the Australian Day of Remembrance of those who gave their lives for the freedom of others. As part of Arthur Caldwell's immigration program in 1948, a massive Polish immigration from displaced persons camps in Europe began. The majority of those who came to Australia were young, single and childless couples. Later came families and widows with small children from Africa, Lebanon and India. 25,000 of them settled in Victoria. Here they started to build a new and happy home, but without forgetting the oppression in their homeland. These Poles felt betrayed by the Allies and had been forced to leave Europe and make a new life.